Modern.
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 We're prepping for a voyage.
Modern.
The force of an old-fashioned equals whiskey mass times bitters acceleration.
Why don't you make that a double?
Modern bar cart.
What's shaking, cocktail fans? Welcome to episode 160 of the Modern Bar Cart podcast. I'm your host, Modern Bar Cart CEO Eric Kozlik. Thanks for joining me for another interview episode where we track down the best and brightest minds in the spirits and cocktail world so that we can share their secrets with you. This time around, I have the pleasure of chatting with Ricky Miller, founder of the House of Carbonadi, a spirits brand that's taking luxury vodka to levels as yet unseen in the spirits space. Now, what does that mean? Isn't vodka supposed to be both neutral in flavor and aroma? So how, pray tell, can we really improve on this category? Well, it just might involve a few black diamonds and not the kind you find on the ski slopes. But before we get into all that, I do have just a couple quick announcements. First, we've got our summer super sale going on through the end of the month of August 2020. So if you head on over to our e-commerce store, you'll see that a bunch of prices have been slashed. And we've also onboarded a couple new glassware items that I'd like to share with you. The first is actually a duo, a matched set of rocks glasses and highball glasses. They're the Acopa Gardenia collection, and I fell in love with this glassware pattern as soon as I laid eyes on it. It's symmetrical and faceted, which are two of my favorite traits in a luxury glass, but they also have a subtle floral pattern and they're surprisingly affordable. We're talking like really affordable for glassware of this quality. $6 a piece for both rocks and highball glasses. So feel free to mix, match, and create the perfect set for your home bar. The other great piece we just onboarded is a really swanky diamond patterned mixing beaker, also by Acopa, for just $19.99. It's 25% larger than our standard Barconic mixing beaker, which makes it great for mixing up 2 cocktails at once. In fact, it's the mixing glass sitting on my home bar at this very moment. So head on over to modernbarcart.com to check out these and all the rest of our bar tools, glassware, and cocktail mixers, many of which are going to be selling for crazy low prices during our summer super sale, which ends when August ends. This is obviously a great time to look ahead to the changing seasons and figure out what kinds of items you'll need for all your fall sipping and entertaining. Our final announcement is in anticipation of our first live and socially distanced event in collaboration with our friends over at Sagamore Spirit in Baltimore, Maryland. Next Monday, August 24th, I'll be leading 2 consecutive evening cocktail bitters classes, where I walk you through the history, science, and art of craft bitters making. Everybody who attends will get to make their own custom cocktail bitters to take home, which means you'll be up close and personal with a ton of awesome botanicals. So if you're tired of looking at the world through your laptop screen and you want to have a blast making your own bitters, this event is for you. We'll have a link to purchase tickets over on the show notes page for this episode, so act fast. Each class is only going to have about 10 openings and tickets are selling. Thanks for bearing with me for those quick announcements, and as a reward, how about we take a moment and mix up a little drink? This episode's featured cocktail is, fittingly, the Vodka Martini. Now, you may be thinking, Eric, it's 160 episodes in and you haven't featured the Vodka Martini yet? Well, truth be told, I didn't want to get into it because I didn't want to deal with the gin martini purists screaming at me for heresy, and I didn't want to have to publicly admit that I don't think a universally accepted recipe for the vodka martini actually exists. See, despite its inherent simplicity and laser beam focus, I think of the martini kind of like a trick that a BMX biker does on a half pipe, or maybe a figure skating move. For these athletes, it's all about a couple things: rotation in midair, some other manipulation of the body while in mid-air, and some kind of specialized landing or finishing move. For martini, on the other hand, it's all about what booze you use, your ratio of booze to dilution, and what other little flavors or flourishes you want in there, or don't want in there. And just like the triple axel in figure skating or the 360 tail whip in BMX, martini moves come with their own lingo. For example, I could walk up to a bar and order a stirred 50-50 dirty vodka martini. and someone else could request an upside down shaken gin martini with a twist, right? Kind of starts to sound a little bit similar to all those figure skating moves. So returning to the question, what is a vodka martini and how do you make one? I can't really give you a single recipe that will suffice, but I can offer some tips that will help you find your perfect vodka martini. Tip number 1, choose your vodka carefully. As we discuss in this and other episodes, vodka has a reputation for being both neutral and flavorless, but this is a myth. You can almost always detect some influence of the distillate base when tasting a vodka, so consider which bases appeal most to you. Are you a fruit person? Are you a grape person? Are you a grain person? Are you a potato person? These things are important. It also helps to learn about how your vodka is treated during the manufacturing process, including filtration and resting techniques, which can affect things like mouthfeel and ethanol burn. Tip number 2, be honest about what you want. If you just want cold vodka without anything in it, just sip vodka on the rocks. That's not a martini, and there's no shame in that. Traditionally, martinis have always had some sort of flavor additive, whether it's something like vermouth or bitters, or something a little dirtier like olive brine. So if you have strong feelings about either the amount or type of flavor additives in your martini, just specify. Your bartender should be able to replicate any ratio of ingredients that you stipulate as long as you come out and say it. Tip number 3, dilution matters intensely. There's a reason why gin martini purists always stir their drinks. It allows for extremely controlled dilution, which can preserve the relationship between juniper, citrus, and bitters. But then again, there might be a reason why it's popular to shake a vodka martini, especially a dirty one that contains lactic acid from the olive brine. See, shaking increases dilution and introduces a ton of air into the drink, which can result in a creamier, thicker mouthfeel that rounds out the profile. So if you're really dedicated to ordering or creating your perfect vodka martini, make sure you also put some thought into how you want it prepared. So, now that you're armed with all the info you need to perfect your next vodka martini, let's turn our attention back to the interview. In this conversation with House of Carbonadi founder Ricky Miller, some of the topics we discuss include Ricky's journey through the entrepreneurial landscape, beginning in the supplement space, then evolving into a passion for beverages and the liquid medium. Why he chose the premium spirit space as his business arena, and how Ricky thinks about the differences between the terms premium and craft. What Italian wheat and black Carbonado diamonds have to do with creating a velvety, sippable vodka with impeccable character. How the Carbonadi team utilizes a wine processing technique called Micro-Oxygenation as a signature finishing move for their spirit. Which changes in the TTV's definition of vodka have both Ricky and I very excited, and much, much more. During this chat, I really enjoyed learning about the efforts that exist in the long tail of the spirit's bell curve, those little nuances that take something from an A to an A+. Ricky is a really passionate, focused guy, and anyone who has even the slightest inclination towards starting a business in the spirits and cocktail world should listen up and soak in some of the wisdom he has to offer. With that, please enjoy this really fun conversation with House of Carbonadi founder, Ricky Miller. Ricky, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
So just give us a quick little intro about who you are, where you come from, and what brought you to the vodka space.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. My life flashed before my eyes. I'm just, I'm a regular kid from Tustin, California, which is in Orange County in Southern California, which, I think has prepped me for the world in, more ways than I could have ever imagined. Orange County is people think of it as like, you think of Orange County, you think of the TV show and the hills. It's really actually one of the more diverse places in the world, which, really prepared me for, college and life beyond college. I always talk about how when I went to college, I played football at Fresno State University. And, I had friends, I had black friends on my team that had never had a white friend. I had white friends on my team that had never had a black friend. And I just thought that was like crazy to me, just because I had friends from every nationality, man, every race, and I was able to like navigate and be comfortable with talking to a lot of different types of people, which I think prepped me for a lot of different types of situations, personalities, and I love that, and I attribute that to, I think the little success I've had, early on. And I was a kid that didn't come from very much, come from a single mother household, was ultimately blessed with a wonderful stepfather, and but I've always had this entrepreneurial bug in me to do big things. I always had that want to be rich bug in me, and for only a few reasons. That was really just to, one, take care of my mother, and two, to try to make a tangible positive impact on as many lives as I possibly can. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I knew I wanted to be that Donald Duck guy that, swam in the gold in his house and but do good for the world. And, so I tell people, I'm materialistic. I love really cool things, but at the same time, I know, I have a burning desire in my heart to really help people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, I was able to listen to some interviews that you did with other podcasts, other programs before this. And, I really like a couple things about your story. Obviously, the athletics is something that is pretty compelling to me. I was a D3 athlete at a very Gettysburg College. It
nice.
was
Okay.
Very, very, very middle to poor school.
I'd imagine that's in Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So I did the D3 track and field for a few years until my body was done with that, and I couldn't do it anymore. But it's funny. In the spirits and cocktail space, I don't come across athletes very often, and especially when you kind of do the little Venn diagram and you say, all right, well, we've got spirits and cocktails, we've got entrepreneurialism, and I think the crossover in that space, it's not easy. It's very tricky, and as I've tried to dip my toe into that pond, I've definitely fallen back on some of the the competitive spirit and stuff like that. But I really love that with your story, what it's tinged with is this multivocality that comes from the Orange County. And my wife, actually, her company has an office there, and I was able to visit a couple times, and I love it. I mean, the one thing I love about Orange County is you can go there and get any kind of food you want.
And
for
sure,
it's brilliant,
right? It's a great place, and I mean, what you talk about, not anyone can really just end up in spirits and luxury spirits. It's very weird from someone with my background to do so, and I think honestly, man, it's a product of just being lucky, and in certain places at certain times, and having like certain conversations with certain people. I actually was. I didn't know what I wanted to do after football. Like I played, I played college. I was fortunate enough to play a couple of years of arena football, and didn't really know what I wanted to do after football. And so I only bring that up to say that, like, I tried 1,000,001 things, like everything you can possibly think of. I tried, which I think is super important for people to do. And ultimately fell in love with beverage marketing of all things. Like, it was rooted in wanting to help people. I'd created this really powerful multivitamin that helped people of color with vitamin D deficiency, and then learned how hard it was to sell a multivitamin. And then, maybe I thought with a more effective delivery system, we can do something there. So started a vitamin D sports drink called Helio, and then I just fell in love with that process of creating a brand that was compelling enough for someone to drink versus another product. I love that. I just loved it. And then I, through that, I'm a really good networker, not because like that sounds good, but just because I actually have a real genuine interest in meeting people and getting to know people. Right. And so luckily I was able to fall into a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Frank Cooper, who used to be the chief marketing officer at PepsiCo. And he's a genius in that world. And through his conversation, like that really, through our conversations over the years, that really got me like really into like beverage marketing. And then ultimately like creating a luxury spirit just kind of became this thing. Like I've never wanted to do anything like small or mediocre. I always want to do something big. A luxury spirit I just thought was super grand. I thought it played within like the things that I like to do. I like to eat, I like to drink, and I love people. And And literally just that's kind of how my desire to create a luxury spirit came into play. But at the same time, I knew like creating something like that's really like authentic luxury is not a easy thing to do, right? And it's really easy to cheapen a luxury brand, really hard to build one. And so really dug into like, case studies and, what the real luxury brands are doing. And I always said I wanted Carbonati to be more than a vodka company. I didn't want it to be an expensive vodka. I wanted it to be a luxury brand, which is part of the reason, like when I'm talking about Carbonati in initial conversations, especially email conversations, I never say Carbonadi Vodka. You'll rarely see me put Carbonati and vodka in the same sentence. I always just refer to it as Carbonati, because I think it's more than a vodka brand, and it's a belief, it's a way of life, and so but just those subtle like nuances I think are important in building a luxury brand, and not using the word luxury too much in like in marketing. Like there's very easy ways to make something super corny and non-luxury, and I'm very, very, very aware and sensitive to those things.
Yeah, it's not just it's not just a brand, it's a house
Correct.
of Carbonari.
That's right.
Carbonadi,
That's right.
House of.
Yes.
And I want to return to beverage marketing because I think there's a lot of fun stuff there. But I think when I was listening to you talk in another podcast about how you were kind of in the supplement space, right? You created this vitamin D drink. You did that to solve a problem, an existing problem, a very well documented problem, and it was a problem, like you said, you want to do good. Well, this is an opportunity for you to use a product to do that, to execute that, and I think that's great. But what it reminded me of was Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. He has this podcast called Masters of Scale that I listened to for quite a while, and there's this one episode where he posed this question, and the question was, if you're an entrepreneur, are you making medicine or are you making a vitamin? And the way that he framed that question was, it's like, well, if you're making a vitamin, you're going to have to kind of take the back seat to the people who are making medicine, because the people who are making medicine are solving problems that people are acutely aware of, and they will pay money to get that problem solved. Whereas a vitamin, the way he framed it was just like, well, a vitamin is just sort of, it literally a supplement. It's like,
my version of that, which I know exactly what he's saying, version of that was birthed out of me actually launching a multivitamin to actually launching another product called 8 Hour Snooze, which is a sleep shot that I created with a buddy back in 2011 or 12. And what I tell people, it's like selling a multivitamin versus selling an energy drink, right? The multivitamin is a much harder thing to sell, because you're basically selling it to someone. They're giving you your money, you're giving them this product, and you're basically saying, trust us, it works, right? And there's no tangible filling. They don't take it and they don't fill anything. When you sell an energy drink, which is why Red Bull can be a $20 billion company, when they spend their $4 or $3 or whatever it is on the can and they drink it, they fill it, right? They're paying for that filling. And that's a much easier sell than selling something that someone has to have faith in that it's going to help them over time, right? So that's what actually made me shift from selling a multivitamin to selling a sleep shot, because we're solving a very particular problem that we're going to solve for people tonight.
Yep.
Not like, take this vitamin D and trust us, it's going to like eliminate your vulnerability to, different systemic diseases. Like it's just a much harder sell. I don't know if he's saying exactly that, but I've always used that selling a multivitamin versus selling an energy drink, or, it's with our short, our instant gratification culture, like it's much easier to sell something that's going to affect you today and not, over a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the idea of immediacy, because I think, really in the spirits and cocktail space, one of the ways that I like to think of myself, one of the things that I like to say is that the reason why I enjoy spirits and cocktails is because flavor is one of my favorite ways to participate in the universe. I am a collection of particles, atoms, molecules, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organism. But at the the end of the day, I'm just a collection of particles taking in another collection of particles, right? It's coming out of a bottle, and it's a collection of particles that becomes part of me. And in a certain manner of speaking, that's the universe participating in itself. And when I take a drink of something and I get not only the flavor sensation, but I get the mouthfeel, I get the pleasant chest burn, I get all of these things, those are immediate things. And so, you know, a lot of people, like if you were to run spirits and cocktails through Reid Hoffman's, is this medicine or is this a vitamin? Well, most people would say, well, it's a vitamin. You don't need spirits and cocktails. And yet, there's the immediacy aspect of it that you pointed out that I think is super compelling. So I know that this has so far been a very entrepreneurially conversation, but I think this is an important groundwork to lay as we start talking about Carbonadi, because this stuff is kind of what underpins it all. And when we're talking about vodka, which is this, at least as far as the TTB is concerned, odorless, flavorless spirit, it's a little bit tough to pin down sometimes. So I think it's really important. So
that's been my, you know, I saw one of your questions and it talked about like, what are some of my unusual or uncommon beliefs? That's been, you know, selling a $60, $70 vodka to bars and restaurants when they can get a high flying Tito's for a third of that cost is a hard sell, especially when they're sold on odorless and tasteless, which I always said was a very archaic way of looking at vodka.
Indeed.
Luckily, this year, in the last few months, now I don't look like so much of an idiot because the TTB has since redefined that definition.
Oh, no kidding.
I actually just did an interview with Kara Newman with Wine Enthusiasts
awesome.
on how I feel about that, right? I've always said that vodka actually has more character. Our vodka has character and personality and flavors and nuances that a seasoned, like someone that really drinks vodka can pick up on, and that there is a lot of personality and there is odor and there is taste. And I always said that, right? But the TTB this year has backed that now. Now that they've brought in the definition. And they talk about vodkas being able to have personality and character. And that literally just came out earlier this year, which I was so pleased to hear. Now, a lot of big-time traditional vodkas, they might not like that, right? Like, you know, the Eastern European vodkas that are used to, like, you know, the vodkas burning your chest. And, you know, that's not what we are. A lot of vodka people call us a Western-style vodka just because... And that's what I want, right? I don't want it. I want something that even non-traditional sippers can sip, right? I want the biggest thing we have, especially when we do like private events, you know, the biggest comment we have is, you know, I don't normally drink vodka, you know, and when they take their first sip, you can tell they're bracing for that that ethanol smack in the face, and it doesn't come. And that's what I want. I want people to be able to enjoy vodka by itself without a chaser, to actually enjoy it, maybe a lemon twist in it, and just by itself. And that's what I wanted to achieve. And yeah, we might not be a traditional, you know, vodka that is super high on the nose with ethanol, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted something super clean that people can actually enjoy and not have to mix.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. I love that backing as we go into some of the more technical aspects of this. So I guess to be explicit with it, this is one of the questions that we had on the sheet that I sent you. It's like when you, like, let's say before Carbonadi, right? So like as you were maybe thinking about Carbonadi and thinking about building a vodka brand, what to you is an excellent vodka experience? Like, is it straight? Is it on the rocks? What do you look for? And I guess maybe a different way to say it is, what for you sets apart a really attractive glass of vodka from a somewhat less attractive glass?
So for me, it's really simple. For me, a perfect vodka experience is an ice cold martini, so cold that there's like ice chips on the surface, with a little bit of with a lemon twist. I like dry martinis. I don't want anything in it. And stirred, especially with ours, the consistency can be messed up if shaken, the texture. So I like it stirred, ice cold, lemon twist. And something that I can really enjoy, not have to like, I mean, how many times can you remember drinking a cocktail and like having to, in front of people and having to pretend like not to make a face? I want to be able to drink a vodka that I don't have to make a face. It is actually pleasant and refreshing and complements whatever I'm eating or not, but it's pleasant to drink, and it's not just a tool to get me wasted. Something I can really, really like truly enjoy. I know people that drink things on the rocks all the time, and when you watch them drink it, they have to like make a face after, an unpleasant face. I'm like, are you really enjoying that, or are you just drinking it because it looks good and that's what everybody's drinking? I wanted to create something that like people can really enjoy, and that's what I feel like we achieved in Carbonadi.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit about how you achieved that. Now,
Got it.
You are not ostensibly a distiller, and
No.
your operation, obviously there's some strong ties with Italy. So can you
Yes.
tell us how you went about building sort of like the team that is responsible for putting this product together?
Yes, for sure. So I contacted when I first wanted to get into the business. I really, to be honest with you, I didn't know much about spirits at all. I'm more of a branding guy, right? But I'm smart enough to know that a strong brand is not much without a strong product. And so I reached out to a well-known distiller in Los Angeles, a guy named Melkin Khosrovian, who's really known and really into the craft, artisanal spirits game, only uses real products, nothing, unnatural, and really just dug into his brain about what's out there. How can I make it special? I honestly, didn't know where I wanted to go. I loved Italy, and I loved the idea of it coming from Italy, but was cautioned by a lot of well-known or a lot of well-respected people that Italy and vodka don't traditionally go together. But they thought that was a bad idea. I thought that was a great idea because, Italian luxury is, in my head, is very easy to market. And Italian ingredients are top notch, and and so I thought if I can really package this together and get people to try it, and I thought I had something there, and so just started digging and digging and digging, and just putting an Italian vodka in a bottle wasn't enough for me. I wanted to make it super special, and so we tried a bunch of different processes, and just transparently, full all transparency, like going into the game with a gimmicky process was something we almost did because it's easy for marketing. But at the end of the day, the level of success that we want to achieve as a brand, something that an LVMH would be proud of, something, we knew that the process had to be real. It had to be authentic. It had to be something that that really worked. I love the idea of the black diamonds, not because it sounds cool, but because the raw black diamonds, aka carbonados, are actually microporous, and they actually extract impurities that a conventional filter can't extract. All that really means is it makes it for a clean spirit, right? That's where you get very little ethanol in the nose. That's where you don't get any hangovers. It's super, super clean. And so that's why I don't say diamond filtration. I say carbonado filtration, because if you Google diamond filtered vodkas, you get a bunch of cheesy, like $1,000 options of like, oh, this vodka touched these white diamonds, and it's like super cheesy. I don't want to play the $1,000 vodka game. I want to play in the price point that makes sense for the process that we do, that we actually do. And that process with the black diamonds, it was a home run, I felt like, because it actually works and actually tangibly enhanced the spirit, but it also was sexy. When people hear that black diamond, there's something sexy about it. And so the thought of like coming from Italy, being in a black diamond, or being filtered through black diamonds, coming in a black bottle, it was just super different in a world of monotony and saturation. Like, I love the idea that it came from Italy. I love the black diamond. And then the micro-oxygenation was just the last touch to make it special. That's what gives it its creamy texture, which, like you mentioned, was a common wine process. And a lot of wine companies used to use it to simulate the aging process. We do it because it gives it that consistency. It elongates the molecules so that it glides across your tongue instead of poking and burning. And that was like the final touch that just made it super, super sexy. And we're so proud of it. I mean, I don't want to mess with the process too much, but we're always trying to make it better. But we're really happy with what we have now from, a wide range of like reputable, somms and people in the industry that love it. And to be honest with you, like, I got lucky. It's not like I was this like spirit wonder boy that just came up with this special thing. It was just tapping into people that were a lot smarter than me, and then like just weaving it all together.
But you know what? I do think that probably the decision to go with Italy was one of the best ones, because what you had was a bunch of people saying, Italy, yeah, but that's not vodka. Italy's not vodka. You're almost doing a non sequitur there. People don't think vodka and then associate with Italy. But to anybody who is like in the entrepreneurial space, who has done product development before, when somebody says, oh, X is not associated with Y, what you say is like, that's a huge white space.
Ding, ding. Yes,
I can
exactly.
go into that white space. So first of all, I love that. I love that you went to the land of the Ferrari and, you know, like all these other beautiful luxury products, you know, luxury suits, luxury, you know, clothing, luxury cars, luxury everything,
yes.
To go and create a luxury vodka, right? I think that is the rhyme. My background's in poetry. And so when I look at these things, sometimes I look for rhymes. And so what they're saying is that, well, you didn't get the vodka rhyme, but you're saying, yeah, but I got the luxury rhyme.
Yes.
And so you were able to complete that sentence in people's minds in a way that makes sense and feels right, while still being novel and a little bit intriguing. So I do want to return to, of course, the Carbonados and to obviously micro-oxygenation, because these are the two really, I think, crazy innovative things that you're doing with your process. But first, can we back up and talk about Italian wheat?
Yes. Yeah. So it's actually organic winter wheat, which I tell people, you know, just from my learnings, is it's just a more durable, slightly sweeter form of wheat, but super high quality that they weren't using for vodka, you know. And I'm like, why not? Like, and like you said, for me, I saw the white space. We tried a bunch of different types, and most people, you know, just like they, you know, would tell me in the bars, you can't really tell the difference, but I could, I really could. And, you know, and then their rebuttal would be like, well, a beginning drinker or someone that doesn't drink all the time wouldn't be able to. But that's not who I'm going after first. I'm going after the person that's looking for those subtleties, right? And so it just made sense. And, you know, and I knew from the ingredient to the process to the bottle to how we make it, that the person that we're going after is going to pay close attention to that. And yeah, so some of the best winter wheat in the entire world that the family that we work with, they use for other products, but none for alcohol. And it was for me, it was totally a no-brainer.
I think wheat vodkas are probably among my favorite vodkas. I've done a bit of vodka judging at various spirits competitions.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, obviously, think about it. If it's a flavorless, odorless spirit, great. You know what? You're still going to be able to taste that base product. And so, you know, for me, grape or fruit bases tend to have that inherent grapey or fruity sweetness to them. And then corn vodkas, actually, I really don't like at all. They tend to...
I'm not a big corn vodka fan either.
You can almost immediately tell there's a very narrow band that you have to fall into with corn, where you're still getting a hint of that sweetness, but it doesn't go into like an off part of the flavor spectrum. It's very difficult to hit, and there's a lot of corn vodkas out there, because if you launch a vodka in America and you're bottling basically MGP or, you know, like some mass distilled product, you're going to be getting something usually made from corn. That's going to be the cheapest thing, and then you get to brand it, and then that's how you increase your margins, is you take the cheapest product and then you brand it. And so and
they're mixing it too, so at the end of the day it doesn't matter too much, right? Because they're going to be mixing it anyway.
Sure.
Which is why they can get rid of that. I mean, people, a lot of, you know, even though I'm not a big corn vodka fan, people try to talk bad about Tito's all the time, and I'm like, listen, I can't talk bad about Tito's. Like, Tito's is the number one selling vodka in the world. They're doing something right, you know? And so I'm not a big fan of corn vodka, but, you know, if you're mixing it in cocktails, like I tell people, I am a Tito's and a Carbonadi drinker, because when I want a mixed cocktail, if I'm going to mix it, then I use Tito's. If I want something that I can enjoy by itself and I want the flavors and the personality to be on the, you know, on the forefront, then I'm going to drink Carbonadi. I honestly tell people that, even say, listen, if you're going to make mixed cocktails, use another vodka. You're gonna mask it anyway. But if you want something, you want an elevated experience, you want something that you know, you can taste and enjoy, then step it up and definitely buy a bottle of Carbonati.
Absolutely, yeah, it makes complete sense.
And I know you want to keep this really spirits based, but a lot of what I did was based on. There's a book out there called Crossing the Chasm, which is it's like a Bible in the tech world, and it's just a matter of like introducing new technologies, right? And like they say, I was introduced to it. This guy said it's like a Bible for all the tech billionaires, and basically all it is like in launching a new product, right? You don't launch it to the masses. If you want to launch a product, you launch it to the early adopters or the innovators, the early adopters. And then the premise of the book was that the chasm between the early adopters and the innovators, that chasm between them and the early majority is where most brands die. All the money is in the early majority. If you can get to the masses, but until you get the innovators and early adopters, the early majority is not paying attention. Like, in the late majority, the laggards, they're never going to hear about your brand. The laggard is someone like my mom who just started using Uber like 2 weeks ago, right? So like, you don't get to them. She's not using Uber until it's like a regular thing, right? And so that's why those subtle differences in the subtleties of the process, I knew had to be on point to get those early adopters, because if I can get them, that's going to get the attention of the early majority, and then that's how the brand's going to grow. But that's in this world, that's a marathon. That's a 10-year play to even be a known brand. So we're committed to that, but that's why the smallest details in every bit of the design and every bit of the process and every bit of our event marketing, our brand partnerships, it had to be on point if we were going to be a true luxury brand. I can sell a $30 bottle, $25 bottle of vodka and market it to everybody and hope that it sticks. But that really wasn't my play. I wanted to make something super special that people that really care about the product will enjoy.
Right. And I mean, personally, for my palate, I love wheat vodkas. I think one of the brands that's done some of the best work in the space in terms of just getting people excited about vodka is Reka out of Iceland.
Yeah. Big fan of Reka, the lava, right? The lava rock. Yeah. They've done a great job. Yeah,
and they use wheat, so that's great. But as we turn our attention to the filtration and the micro-oxygenation process, one of the things that I really want to hammer home, and most people are probably at least implicitly aware of this, but I want to put it on the forefront of everybody's mind, is that if you're drinking vodka, 9 out of 10 times, let's put cocktails off to the sidebar, 9 out of 10 times, if you're drinking vodka, what you're looking for is something, even if you don't know it, something with a nice mouthfeel. Yes. And something that is, even though I really don't like this word, smooth and not like, another way to say that would be like without the ethanol burn.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So talk to me first about the Carbonado diamonds, because that, I imagine that comes first in the process before the micro-oxygenation. Is that correct?
Yes, the micro-ox is the very last process. All right. Because that's what really enhances the texture. Mm-hmm. So after we've done that, we don't want to play with it.
Right.
Which is why we tell bartenders, I mean, it's hard sometimes with like union properties. A lot of these like luxury hotels are union properties and the bartenders just don't care. But we tell bartenders, you want to stir this. You don't want to shake it. You shake it, it just messes up the texture. You stir it and you're gentle with it. Yeah, the last process is the micro-oxygenation.
Well, so let's start with the Carbonado diamonds, because that's first. The micro-oxygenation is super compelling to me. But one of the things that's interesting, right? If you talk to a vodka distiller, what they will tell you is we put our vodka through a carbon filter, and most people think of their Brita filters, which is fair. There's carbon in there. There's little flecks of black carbon in there. But diamonds are made from carbon. So there's this really cool, that's another rhyme in the story of Carbonadi. So talk to me about the porousness and the actual effects of this filtration system, because I think it's really special.
Yeah, so the Carbonado filtration, I was looking around because I thought I might have had some on my desk. But if you think about like Fruity Pebbles, that's about the size of the stones that we get, right? And we get about 3,500 carats of them. And if you can imagine, this isn't a plug for Red Bull, but if you can imagine like a cylindrical filter about that big, about that wide. Okay. We have like 4 or 5 of them. We jam pack about 3,500 carats of these carbonados in there, in the cylindrical filter, airtight. And because they're microporous, these are uncut, unpolished. They're microporous and very absorbent. So we have to switch them out every now and then. But we've done tests where we filtered them through the carbonados, and we've done tests with with the mouth filtered through the carbonados, and there's a very significant difference in the cleanliness of the spirit. There's a very distinct taste, and the one with the carbonado filtration is way more pleasant, way cleaner on the palate, way less aftertaste, and ultimately, we would like to say that leads to no hangover, which is a huge deal for us. But yeah, that's the main part of what the carbonados, what the effect it has on the spirit. It just makes it a supremely clean spirit.
Right, and for folks listening at home, a couple things I want to point out about this is that, one, the technical name for these impurities in spirits, and if you're in the whiskey world, actually this is a good thing. So if you're sticking your spirit in a barrel and aging it, you actually want these things called congeners, and these are the compounds that kind of like play a part in the hangover the next day, and obviously the more you can do work to eliminate those, the better the process is going to be in terms of cleanliness. Now, in terms of the carbonado diamonds, I must imagine that these congeners, and then like most carbon filters, they have sort of like an opposite charge, right? So as the liquid passes through this, these congeners with a certain charge are attracted to a filter, or in your case, a literal diamond with an opposing charge that sucks them out of the water. So for folks who, just put their Brita filter under the sink and then just leave it and forget it, that's kind of what's happening, is that there's actual chemistry and physics going on here, and it's these opposing charges that take this out, and so there's that. Which
Eric, what I think you would actually appreciate. I'm having this contraption developed so that we can do. I'll invite you when we get it done, where we can do boardroom takeovers at like magazine headquarters, where we can set it up on the conference table, and we can show you exactly what the filtration does. You can taste it before, taste it after, and it's like this really cool contraption where before it's filtered and micro-oxed and after, and you can see the difference. There's a very, very, very tangible difference, and I wish I could have more people taste it, the before and after, because then you see how special the process is.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So getting on to micro-oxygenation now, again, I mentioned my degree was in poetry. I'm not quite sure what your science background is, but we're very much trusting what the chemists and the physicists tell us here. And I did as much research as I possibly could about micro-oxygenation before we sat down and had this conversation. But really, the big takeaway that I have is, like you mentioned earlier, it's a lengthening of molecular chains by infusing oxygen into the product in a really intense manner. So can you describe that?
I can't describe it any better than you just did. That's exactly what it is. And you can do, there are different levels. Now, the more you infuse, the longer and the creamier it gets. There's a very, very specific level that we do it, which gives you the final product that we've presented to the world. But that's it in a nutshell. It's just pumping copious amounts of oxygen into the spirit. Like we mentioned before, wine brands used to do it, and it's not as common anymore because wine purists didn't really like the artificial aging. They wanted that barrel aging, but for the vodka, it really helps in the texture. And that's one of the consistent notes and descriptives we get from Psalms is that creamy texture. And you can see it when, one of the visuals that we also use when we're doing demonstrations is we have people swirl the vodka in a glass against another vodka. So you can see the tangible difference. And the Carbonadi coats the glass like a wine would and has incredibly beautiful legs.
Yeah, legs. And for folks who don't know what legs are, that's sort of like if you get a nice clean glass. Clean is important here. A nice clean glass, and then you pour of a spirit, and it could be barrel aged, it could be non-barrel aged. And if you can kind of roll the glass, coat the outside of the glass, and then let it settle, you can see these drips begin to form as gravity pulls the liquid that's coating the inside of the glass down. And kind of like the larger and the slower these legs move, it can really tell you something about the mouthfeel of that spirit without ever even having to put it in your mouth. Of course, you're going to, but it's something that people who are at the top of their game in spirits evaluation will always look for, because it's one of those little hints that can help you to do your job just a little bit better. Because if you've ever talked to a chef, they'll say, well, we eat first with our eyes. Well,
Yes.
the same goes for spirits and cocktails. We just need to work a little harder at it.
Yes, and we do that without sugar too. A lot of brands will use sugar to give it a creamy texture. We do that without any sugar. It's a purely organic process.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, I want to talk a little bit about what the future holds for Carbonati.
Yeah.
But first, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything, because there's obviously a lot of cool things going on with the product and the brand.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of exciting things going on. I think that, the whole pandemic situation, it didn't knock us down, but we had to refocus because, or reallocate just our energies. And, Carbonati, and I think most brands, the higher end you get, the more on-premise dominant it is, right? And so that was definitely a blow, because 80% of what we did was on-premise in restaurants, hotels, activating, educating. As a new brand, that's where brands are built, in the restaurants and in the hotels, and so that was a blow. But what it did is it made us reallocate our energy to retail, and really step up our retail game. And luckily, we had been going so hard on premise that we developed somewhat of a good sized following, so that was able to, we were able to translate that into retail sales, which is what's keeping us alive now. Now we're rooting for on premise to open back up, just because that's where we do really well. That's really where we gain new consumers, because we're able to be in signature we're the signature martini in a lot of these restaurants.
Right.
But you know what? Like this, it's a brand building exercise for us right now. The more PR we can get to talk about the product and educate people, the better. One of the other things that kind of set us back a little bit was that we were very, very event marketing focused. We did a lot of really cool events that helped strengthen our positioning as a luxury brand. We were presenting vodka at the Concorso Italiano, the biggest Italian luxury car show in the world in Monterey, for Monterey Car Week. We activated and threw really posh parties and private dinners, highlighting new yachts, and, a lot of things to really ingrain ourselves in that world of luxury. And those things are necessary, because in building a new brand, it's conditioning, right? It's just people constantly being exposed to your brand in the right environments. And that really hurts. So now we're trying to get creative, by, doing really cool campaigns, shooting short films that really highlight the brand, but, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm hoping things bounce back to normal, but we'll be ready if they don't. And you're going to really start seeing Carbonati step up our game online from a content point of view, to tell, really gives us an opportunity to tell the story and to educate people on the process and different ways, you can use Carbonati. So that's, I think that's probably the most exciting part. I'm excited. I'm a right brain person. So, I think, I, along with, a strong team behind me, can really communicate the Carbonati brand through short films and interviews of really cool people. And, I'm excited about that. I think people are going to be excited to see that. But as far as everything else, I mean, we're going to be nationally distributed by spring of next year. I've really focused on going deep in the territories we're in now, rather than spreading ourselves too wide. Although it's super exciting to be able to say we're in all 50 states, that's a big undertaking when you have limited resources. Mm-hmm. So, the markets we're in now, California, Nevada, New York, New Jersey, Florida, we're going super deep there, and then trying to thrive online to cover everything else. But when things start opening up, we'll be in about 30 states, and more available for people that want to go in store and buy. But it's a time of uncertainty right now. That's why we're trying to really buckle up our digital presence and when someone searches Carbonati, they can get it in a day or two, and so
Right.
that's, I think that's going to filter out, the businesses that last, and the businesses that don't are the ones that are able to adjust, rather than wait for things to bounce back to normal, because who knows if there's going to be if we are going to bounce back to normal.
Right. And what kind of price point are people looking at? It looks like you've got a 1 liter and a 750 ml bottle.
So the 1 liters are strictly on premise now.
Okay.
The only reason they even ended up in stores were because I started with 1 liters only because we were on premise brand. Once we started getting a retail demand, I then started manufacturing 750s, and now we're trying to get all the 1 liters out of retail and only sell 750s in stores.
Right.
The 750 price, I mean, from when there's sales, I've seen it as low as like $56.99, as high as $90. So yeah, that's about the price point for the 750. I say $69.99 is about the normal price.
Right. And, there's something interesting about this. And we kind of covered what's in store for Carbonati. And before we jump into the lightning round questions here, I think an interesting place for us to kind of settle here as we wrap up the interview would be kind of, we could call it a pitch. We could call it just sort of like a little comparison for our listeners, because I know that a lot of my listeners are into craft spirits. I talk a lot about craft spirits, but there's a distinction here between craft and luxury. And, I've got some ideas about it, but I would love to hear you talk about the difference between craft and luxury, especially because I see a lot of craft bourbons or aged spirits on the shelves at the same or a similar price point as your luxury spirit. Obviously, barrel aging kind of messes with the economics of that. So let's throw that out the window and just pretend that there's a bottle of craft spirits next to a bottle of luxury spirits, and that they're a similar price. How do you communicate the difference to people in a compelling way?
For me, it's like, I mean, that's a great question, and I think that's a constant, ongoing conversation. People call us craft. I think, for me, the definition of craft is, you produce below a certain amount. It doesn't tell me much about the quality, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there are craft spirits out there that they're called craft because they only make a certain amount, not because of how good they are. And so I was very specific about luxury. Against, some strong advice from people I respect, I don't even talk about the organic element of Carbonati, because when people think about organic, they don't think about luxury. They think, they do. I guess in organic food, it costs more, but in the world of spirits, when you talk about organic spirits, it's hard to make that crossover to luxury. They're not thinking a luxury product. And so, I like the organic thing to almost be a pleasant surprise. But it's the luxury. It's the person. The person's not going to spend $70 on Carbonati because it's organic. They're going to spend it on $70 on Carbonati because of how special it is, the texture, the cleanliness, just the overall taste, the uniqueness, and the aesthetic of the bottle, which I think are all prime factors in creating a luxury brand. The fact that it's organic, I think, is an afterthought for most people that are spending, people that are buying Louis Trey. They don't give two shits whether it's organic or not. It's special, right? We want to go for we're making it for people that want something special, And so the craft thing I like, and I support the movement, but I've just never looked at ourselves as craft, even though we do, we probably make similar amounts, but I've never wanted to associate with craft. I wanted to be a true luxury brand, and the price point comes from a place of not wanting to distinguish ourselves from the rest of the vodka pack, but not wanting to price ourselves out of the market, because there is a limit. Like, people at some point, vodka is vodka to a lot of people, and $120 Carbonati that I've never heard, or a $60 Stoli Elite. I'm probably going to go for the $60 Stoli Elite. So I wanted to make it special. I wanted to distinguish ourselves, but I also wanted to sell vodka.
Yeah, and I think that's a stellar answer to that question. I was actually very, very curious about how you thought about that, because when I think about it, I think of it as a top-down versus a bottom-up situation. Craft one of the nice things about craft is that very often it's tied to the land, it's tied to the people, the culture of a certain place, and in many cases that culture or that certain constraints in the process will cap that production capacity. And so that's kind of like the production capacity and what we might call the small town romance of the craft spirit. They kind of go hand in hand. One, it advises the other, and it makes sense. And I work with a lot of craft distillers. I know I have an entire library of amazing craft products on my bar. But one of the things that I think very differently about when it comes to a luxury spirit is that it seems very top down, in that the consumer has to do almost no work in the process, and the work that is done is like literally the financial transaction, right? I'm going to pay you this amount of money. It's more money than I would pay for another thing. But what I expect when I pay this money is that everything is going to be in its place. Yes. And you're right. You can't guarantee that with a craft product all the time. You gotta do your research. You gotta know more. And so I think there's something interestingly unintimidating about luxury spirits that is not the case with craft spirits, because there's that little unknown. There's that little bit of trepidation of like, am I really about to drop this money, and am I about to regret it, or am I about to really enjoy it? Could be either, but it's still a roll of the dice. And I think if there's one takeaway that I have, having had this conversation with you, it's that you did the work, you put in the time, the research, and you really thought deeply, whether that was following the advice of people or actually targetedly going in the opposite direction to create this brand that was built top down, that has this really compelling story that is actually a craft story, but more importantly, it's a luxury story because it doesn't require any work from us to really enjoy it.
For sure. And Eric, the thing about it too is like, and this is no disrespect to like craft entrepreneurs, like I respect and I support. Mm-hmm. But for the Carbonadi brand, I mean, when I think about using the word craft, this is just me, my personal opinion. To me, by calling ourselves craft, this is just my interpretation. It's like saying we're the small guy, but we do a good job, but support us because we're the small guy.
Right.
I didn't want that. I wanted to be, we're a small guy, but guess what? We do it better than the big guy. Mm-hmm. And I want you to buy it because it's better than that, not because we're the small guy. And maybe that's not the interpretation for all people with craft, but it's just mine. And I don't want to handicap myself. No, we are the best. We're a luxury brand, and we'll go head to head against anybody out there from a taste standpoint. And that's not disrespecting any brands. It's just it's just wanting to create. I know Gary Vaynerchuk says this all the time. He wants to create the biggest building by creating the biggest building, not by tearing all the other buildings down. Mm-hmm. And that's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a reason why Ferrari only makes a certain number of cars every year, and Ferrari is not a craft automaker.
No, exactly. That's exactly right. That's a good one. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, Ricky, this has been fantastic. We'll give you the chance at the end of the interview to give us all of your digital handles, all the different ways to purchase the product, and keep in touch with your brand. But is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that our listeners could hear from you before we jump into the lightning round?
No, I think we got a lot of things across. Just pay attention to some of the new content that we're going to be putting out. We're really excited about it. I have one of the best content creative directors in the world, in this guy named Eric Reed. Who I with every single day, and I call myself the creative director for the brand, but we work together on just creating just magic, and I'm really excited to start putting this stuff out, and it's just I had to remind myself that I didn't want to be just a vodka company, and I got caught up in working so much in the business that I didn't have a chance to work on the business and communicate Carbonati to the world the way that I wanted to communicate it. And now we're doing that, and that's what I think is going to make it special. And so, over the next few months, just keep a lookout for that on our Instagram channel.
Awesome, fantastic. Yeah. All right, and with that, let's jump into the lightning round. So you mentioned this earlier, so let me see if I can throw a little handicap on you, because you got ahead of me on this question. We know that your favorite cocktail is the like a ice cold stirred Carbonadi Martini, maybe a little lemon twist in there. But
Yes.
but let's say Carbonadi's off the table.
Okay.
What is your favorite cocktail? And if you don't have a favorite of all time, what's something maybe you've been experimenting with recently?
Old fashioned. Yeah. Love the old fashioned. And yeah, made any way. I like all different like varieties of old fashions, and there's a lot of them out there. But yeah, old fashioned is definitely my go-to drink.
I love that.
If it's not the Black Diamond Martini.
I love that in a vodka person too, because it's when in the whiskey world, it is the picture of simplicity and precision.
Yes.
Yeah, great. If you were a cocktail ingredient, what would you be and why?
Oh, that's a good one. I would be edible gold. That bartenders use to make the really, 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 really special drinks. Just because when I see edible gold on like a cocktail, like a special event, I'm like, ooh, that makes it super, super special.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't even think I've had a cocktail with edible gold. Obviously there's the gold Schlager that everybody gets over, hopefully past the age of like 23.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you get that at an event, is it usually like, is it a thing that they kind of paint on the rim? Is it something that goes
sprinkled over the top?
Sprinkle. Oh yeah, like a gold leaf.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Especially if there's like a little bit of egg white on top, a little bit of foam.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully back when we're able to have events again, I can maybe try my hand at a little bit of that myself.
Yep.
All right, here's the Widowmaker. If you could have a cocktail with anybody in the world, past or present, just who would it be? Where would you go? What would you drink? Paint us a nice picture.
All right, so this is going to be a good one, right? I thought about this. And it's two people. I'm going to break the rules.
Okay.
I'm going to have a cigar, a Black Diamond Martini in the Hamptons in a very secluded backyard. And I'm going to have President Barack Obama and President Donald Trump.
Oh, no.
And we're just going to have deep conversation. And you know what? My ultimate, like what I believe is going to come out of that is we're going to realize that we're all very much alike, and that pandering to your supporters is a very dangerous thing to do, and it's very divisive. But I think ultimately we're all very similar, and I think we'd have a really cool, fun conversation.
I bet. It's funny. I did an episode probably a year and a half ago now where I answered this lightning round question, and my answer was Barack Obama.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Just because I had so many questions, and just that's fascinating. But yeah, very brave of you, and I think that really speaks to your eagerness to take on a vast world of people with very different opinions on products and bring them all around the common table.
That's right. That is right.
Beautiful. What is a common or traditional cocktail ingredient that you've never tasted, and why?
I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. But I've only never tasted it because I don't like the way it looks, and that's a lychee. Oh,
lychee, yeah.
Lychee, yeah. I don't know why. It's never looked pleasant. I've seen it in a lot of really cool looking cocktails, but there's something about it that just I've never had the desire to taste.
It's funny for listeners. A lychee it's. I think it might be related to like a water chestnut or something, but I think technically it's a fruit like a rambutan. It's got this spiky outside casing, and then the inside is this white semi-translucent kind of nut-like. It looks like a nut, but it's really like a fruit or something, and it's kind of tropical tasting, but yeah, it's got this like weird shock appeal that is like it's both fascinating but also slightly unsettling. So I can kind of get behind that.
So even when I see it, like sometimes I'll see it at like those like yogurt land places where you can put the toppings on your own ice cream, and I see it there, and I'm like, that's the weirdest option. But I guess people like it, Maybe one day I'll try it. I'll have to try it one day.
For sure. Oh, that's a good one. We haven't had that one before. Lychee. I love it. All right. Last one here. What is an unusual or controversial view or belief that you hold in the spirits or cocktail space?
So I think we talked about this a little bit. I think it was just, the belief that vodka does have character and personality and flavors. And, like I said, I was looked at as a nut when I was talking to like bartenders that was always their pushback, and I was like, no, but there's more to it. So literally like, I was so happy when TTB changed their definition this year, because I always used to say, and I almost felt a little I felt disrespectful when I said it, it's an archaic way of thinking, but I really believed it, and I thought that, I think that there are some good vodkas out there that have a lot of flavor and character. And I just thought that it was very limiting to live and abide by that definition.
Right. And I think the perfect response to somebody who says, oh, well, vodka doesn't taste anything, it's odorless and flavorless. And it's like, well, yeah, with that attitude.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yep. Beautiful. Well, Ricky, man, this has been deeply pleasurable for me because I learned a ton, not only by doing the research before this, but also, by having you kind of lead me through not only the thought process, but also some of the technical attributes that make Carbonati special. So this has just been a blast for me, but can you tell our listeners how they can learn more about your brand and how they can get in touch, especially in the digital space?
Yes, for sure. So I think the best place to start is on Instagram, House of Carbonadi on Instagram. Our website, which is still being done, but I think you can go and there's stuff up now at houseofcarbonadi.com. And if you have any questions, you can send it to the House of Carbonadi Instagram page or my personal Instagram page at Ricky Miller III, all spelled out on Instagram. And I'm very responsive. So, I get anytime anyone has questions about Carbonadi, it really excites me because, like I said, we're still a baby in this game. We're fresh. So any unsolicited, inquiries or questions about the brand, it excites me. It means we're doing a good job of getting it out there. And, I encourage anyone to reach out, and I would love to chat.
Absolutely. So one last kind of two-part question here. Can you just remind us once again the states where you're currently being carried for either on-premise or retail, and then let us know, is there any way we can purchase online nationally since some of the shipping restrictions have recently been relaxed on spirits?
For sure. You can. So, you can actually go to stores and restaurants on-premise in California, Nevada, New York, New Jersey, Florida, as of today. And then online, I always tell people if you just Google buy Carbonati online, there's a lot of options that'll come up. But hightimewine.net is a good one that ships nationally. There's a lot of shipping rules. Right. High Time's one of the ones that ships nationally. Wine.com ships in California. But like I said, if you just Google Carbonadi Vodka online, you'll get a lot of options.
Beautiful. And we're certainly looking forward to, as things hopefully get back on track here, the expanded distribution and the expanded footprint of your brand. I guess for now, we'll just recommend that people find it where they can, especially if you're in one of those states that's lucky enough to have it right now. Go out and, if you're one of those people who thinks that vodka doesn't taste like anything, well, why don't you go do a little test and let us know?
Exactly.
Ricky, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Hey, thank you, bud. It's been a pleasure.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, there's two big things you can do for us here at Modern Bar Cart. One would be to tell your friends and family if you think they'd enjoy listening to us talk about cocktails. And if they don't download podcasts, they can always stream our episodes on their desktop directly from the show notes page at modernbarcart.com. The other thing you can do to help would be to head on over to iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts and leave us a review. 5 stars are great, but we're more interested in your feedback. And the beauty is, the more reviews we have, the easier it will be for other folks out there to learn about our show. We're trying to start a cocktail revolution here, and by spreading the word, you're helping us fight the good fight. You can always reach us by emailing podcast@modernbarcart.com if you're looking for cocktail or bartending advice, or if you're a pro who would like to pull up a mic and be interviewed for all to hear. Also, definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Modern Bar Cart for cocktail porn, recipes, and entertaining tips. And keep an eye out for new product releases and special offers, which are happening all the time. We love our listeners, and we really enjoy giving you exclusive discounts and sneak peeks at our latest and greatest cocktail projects. This episode may be over, but for you, the mixological fun and adventures are just beginning. So remember, folks, drink responsibly and experiment boldly. This episode was made possible with editing and production assistance by Samantha Reed, premium vodka insights courtesy of Ricky Miller and Carbonadi Vodka, and a little bit of interview magic by yours truly. This has been a Modern Bar Cart production, copyright 2020.